Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justice, and today we're jumping back into the Carrie franchise with 2002's Carrie, the made-for-TV movie. And funnily enough, this was actually the very first Carrie adaptation I ever saw back in middle school. And boy, what a weird way to start this franchise. Like I said in the last video, which if you haven't seen that, it's linked down below. I had just finished reading the novel because the Chloe Grace Moretz remake was about to come out, and since I couldn't convince my parents to take me to see it in theaters, I scoured YouTube and I found this version uploaded for free. And yeah, 13-year-old me thought it was awesome at the time, and looking back now as an adult, this movie is a hot mess. Now, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. There are moments and performances that I think work, but overall, it's exactly what you'd expect from an early 2000s made-for-TV movie. It has really flat cinematography. In fact, this entire movie looks extremely gray and like it's afraid of color. It's the weirdest damn choice. The budget is painfully low, and we are going to get fully into that when we start talking about all the weird CGI that's constantly thrown at the camera in this movie, and also the actors in this movie. I wouldn't even say they're B-list actors, they're more like C or D-list actors, and they give some of like the most stiff performances I've seen in a while, and I don't even know if that's really their fault. The dialogue choices in this movie sometimes, man, are really bad, and if this wasn't made in the early 2000s, I would be questioning whether or not this movie was written using AI. But for anyone who hasn't seen this version, the 2002 Carrie follows the same basic beats of the 76 film and the novel. A shy, outcast girl named Carrie discovers she has telekinetic powers and suffers from relentless bullying and finally snaps on prom night after a cruel prank. The film tells this familiar story through a mix of flashbacks and police interviews, which is where it tries to set itself apart from the other adaptations. This film isn't going to be a plot breakdown, and if you'd like something similar to that, I'd recommend the last video I did again, because I discussed the things De Palma changed up from the book for the movie, and this film essentially abandons most of those things that De Palma changed to stick with what was originally in the novel. Whether that worked is up for debate. But in this iteration, Carrie herself is played by Angela Bettis, who I love typically, and she's a massively underrated actress. She's fantastic in May, which is one of my favorite early 2000s horror B movies. If you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend it. The character in that film is incredibly similar to Carrie, and if you've seen May, you know that Angela Bettis has the acting chops to be able to play Carrie. Even in that film, she's able to pull off that weird outsider girl who is mistreated by her peers and other people around her before she eventually snaps. In fact, it's kind of a Carrie tale, just without the religious mother and the telekinesis. But as much as I love Angela Bettis, there is one glaring problem. She is too old for this role. Bettis was 29 at the time, and unlike Sissy Spacek, who was 26, unfortunately, Bettis does look like a grown woman. It's really hard to be able to suspend your disbelief that these are teenagers. In fact, a lot of the cast looks too much like full-grown adults versus teens. With the rest of the cast, it's really hit or miss. Some performances stand out, but for the most part, it feels like a lineup of TV actors who are trying to do their best with some really freaking clunky dialogue. Even Sue Snell in this film, she is played by Candice McClure, and this character is usually amongst my favorites in this franchise, but in this film, she's handled very strangely. Like, I don't hate her here. Some of the added moments between her and Carrie set up this more blossoming friendship, like this lipstick scene where she helps Carrie find her shade, or even Tommy reassuring Carrie that Sue thinks she's cool when he asks her to the prom. Those little touches give their relationship more depth than we typically get in other adaptations. Hell, it gives more depth than we ever actually see in the novel. Where it stumbles for me is less about the performance and more about the writing. Like, I'll just clip in a few random lines and you tell me if this sounds like actual good dialogue or not.
Shouldn't religion be more like dogs playing poker?
Dogs playing
Poker. I can't tell you what any of the apostles are doing in the Last Supper. But I can tell you that the little white bulldog is holding an ace under the table. We had our differences.
differences about Carrie White.
Differences about a lot of things. I played with Barbie, she played with horses. She's a back to front, I'm a front to back.
Unfortunately, Sue has so many of these moments where she's popping off with this snarky dialogue like this, like she thinks she's doing something, but it's just cringe. It's very cringe writing. Because instead of letting her actions speak for themselves, she's stuck explaining everything in these really awkward interrogation scenes. That said though, I do appreciate that they had the cojones to do colorblind casting back in the 2000s and casted her character as a black woman. Making Sue a black character in a mostly white upper middle class school naturally positions her as a bit of an outsider too, which could have been used to deepen her connection to Carrie, with her being able to have some kind of understanding with Carrie for her fellow outsider status, at least to some degree. But for the most part, this really just sticks to being subtext, and they don't really ever do anything with it, when it's pretty damn clear that there could have been way more done with that without pandering or throwing stuff in your face. I think that it was an actual really interesting change, and I wouldn't mind seeing another adaptation try to do it, because like I said, they really just don't do much with this added layer of subtext to the film. But backtracking to those police interrogations, this adaptation tries to stick more closely to King's novel by incorporating the police interviews as a framing device throughout the entire movie. It's very similar to how the actual novel pieces together police interrogations and documents to show you how the story played out other than just directly telling you. And in theory, I respect the attempt at being closer to the source, but in execution, it's extremely laughable. The opening scene of the film is filled with even more awkward dialogue and is such a painful way to start the movie. And again, just listen to this dialogue and tell me if that's a good choice to start your film on. Mind you, this is minutes into the movie.
He's traditional glazed. Like heroin. Highly addictive. You ever try heroin, Sue?
No.
Good girl. Nasty stuff. Cocaine?
No.
A little X, occasional joint?
Now, after hearing that, try and tell me with a straight face that this doesn't feel like parody rather than the serious tone that they're obviously trying to go for. The film also pads out the story with extra scenes from the novel. One scene that actually isn't shown in either entry is a scene of Carrie as a kid seeing her neighbor topless in her backyard, and Margaret freaking out over Carrie seeing the neighbor girl's dirty pillows before dragging her daughter inside, which unleashes this giant boulder-sized hail to start raining on the house. It's then you're reminded just how low the budget this movie is yet again, because the CGI looks straight out of early Smallville, if you guys remember that show, when you see the meteors raining in the sky in the pilot. After rewatching the Smallville pilot, or at least the clip of that scene of the meteors raining onto the town, I would like to redact my statement that it looks as bad as Smallville. In fact, I would like to say that it looks worse. Way, way, way worse. I honestly think they could have just cut this whole sequence, but again, there are so many other instances of bad CGI in this movie. I don't think just cutting this one scene would have saved us from seeing just how cheaply made this movie really was. After watching the Smallville clips, though, I was reminded of the Smallville theme song, and if you guys remember that theme song, oh boy, it is going to get caught in your head. And if you don't remember, I'm going to bless your ears with it and randomly clip it throughout this video. So be ready for that. And unfortunately, this problem carries through to the prom sequence. Instead of building suspense, they insert an awkward dance montage to fill a runtime after Carrie is crowned prom queen, completely killing the tension before the infamous pig's blood drop. The score in the original film is so iconic as well, with clear inspiration from Psycho. This one sounds like the first royalty-free music they felt could hit the spot. If I didn't know this was a TV movie, I would have also thought that it was shot for 3D with as often as CGI BS flies at the camera. You literally see this whole headboard to a basketball hoop swing into the camera before being thrown at it to land on one of the girls. It is the strangest choice for a TV movie. Another thing the movie does try to do differently, and where I'll give it credit, because I'll give credit where credit is due, they try to stick more faithfully to the novel and show the destruction of the whole town. But again, it may have been a better idea to just have cut it, because the effects take you on a trip straight to Uncanny Valley here. You're just met with scene after scene of Carrie walking in this green screen as she's throwing all this different stuff from her mind that make PlayStation 2 graphics look like they're in HD, and it's just extremely laughable. Even when you get to the scene of her eventually killing Chris and Billy by throwing the car against this tree, it has these like really weird jump cuts, and so much of it is used to be really, really bad CGI. So I just don't understand the choices that were made here at all. It just looks really, really hokey and pulls you out of the whole damn movie. But after seeing these CGI cars and fences getting thrown around, we are finally getting to Carrie's showdown with her mother. We see that Carrie has no memory of the awful things she has just done at her prom when she talks to Margaret, which I think this choice for the character was made with recent tragedies of the time in mind. Apparently, the writers were worried about having too much of a teenage vigilante theme due to the Columbine massacre, and don't quote me on this, but I think it bleeds through here. It's a strange choice to have Carrie have a full-on out-of-body experience where she doesn't remember what she did. I prefer her losing control and then coming down from her rage only to realize what she has done. I think that's far more impactful for the character. But after this, Margaret tries to kill Carrie like she always does in every adaptation, but instead of the crucifixion imagery from De Palma's version, Carrie instead stops Margaret's heart with her telekinesis, just like in the novel. I like that nod to King's book. I think it's cool to be able to see it on screen, but again, it looks like a PlayStation 2 cutscene from Mortal Kombat as we get like this strange, like in-chest close-up of her heart. I like the tension and the acting between both Carrie and her mother during this whole scene, and the way it builds up is really good, but the special effects undercut this otherwise like pretty damn good scene. And that's the biggest problem with this entire movie, is you get these scenes where like there's good acting and it just completely is lost on you because they make all these really weird creative decisions throughout the film. I mean, I even told you my problem with Sue. I do enjoy Sue's character in this one, but that bad dialogue they give her throughout it is just so freaking questionable, and that's all the characters in this. It's like they didn't really know what they were doing overall with the story. But speaking of Sue, we get to the ending, which might be the strangest departure in the entire franchise. Instead of Carrie dying, Sue barges in and rescues her, slaps a terrible wig on her head, which I swear was a Spirit Halloween recreation of Drew Barrymore's hair from Scream, and the two of them drive off like a knockoff Thelma and Louise into the sunset. The idea was apparently to launch a TV series where Carrie and Sue travel around helping other people with powers so they don't snap like Carrie did. And it was also supposed to follow Carrie overcoming the guilt of all the people she has killed, which this last part can be evidenced by the pathetic attempt at a jump scare at the end of the film, with her having nightmares of both her mother and Chris. With how poorly this movie was received though, both critically and by fans, it's no wonder that spin-off never materialized, and I am perfectly okay with that. At the end of the day, this is the Carrie I feel most negative about in the entire franchise. I respect that it tries to stick closer to Stephen King's original novel, but when even King himself admits De Palma's film improved on his story, I don't think following the book beat for beat in an adaptation was the right call here. And as a teenager, like I said, I was blinded by being able to see this story on screen for the first time, but rewatching it now, this isn't a good movie, you guys, and I very much think I was just 13. And I do think I live by that unless you're a diehard Carrie completionist, I would say just skip this movie and go watch me. That's a great Angela Bettis performance right there. But anyways, what did you guys think of the 2002 Carrie? Did you like it? Hate it? Let me know in the comments below. And stay tuned. I'll be covering the rest of the franchise in the coming weeks. I'm planning on covering the Chloe Grace Moretz remake next, and then we'll jump into all of the weird other choices that were made in this franchise after covering all of these remakes. And also, if you're new here and you've never seen this channel and you want more content just like this, then I'd love if you hit that subscribe button. I cover everything and anything horror on this channel. But anyways, with that all out of the way, this has been Justice, and I really hope to see you guys on the next one. Take care.